Before we head into the final fight, I think it's important to take a quick look at Crocodile Isle itself, and by extension, the Kremlings and the curse that keeps them here. This is definitely not just because I wanted the series to be a nice, even 60 episodes. This is part 58 of Overthinking Donkey Kong Country 2. Crocodile Isle is a weird location. If I'm being completely honest, I'm not crazy about it. It's like a fucked up Vegemite wedding cake that's about to topple over. Donkey Kong Island is goofy, for sure, but like, you can believe it could be real, you know? It's beach, jungle, mountains, forest. It's very simple and grounded. Crocodile Isle progresses upwards, and it all feels very, I don't know, cartoonish? I wouldn't change a thing about Gangplank Galleon. It's out there, but grounded, and works perfectly as connective tissue between the first and second game. The goofy crocodile head is cool, even though it's silly, but from then on, every stage is like reduced to a symbol, visual shorthand of what it's all about. Another shipwreck, that's not so bad, but the next two are just plateaus of hives and flashing lights, and dead trees. And already, it doesn't feel like a world we can explore. It feels like a series of floors on a fucked up elevator ride. Then there's a very unstable looking castle atop the narrow point of the spire, separated from the rest of the island by this Mount Rushmore of Krool heads. Which brings me to my next point. I've already talked about the theory I've dubbed the curse of the Kremlings, but I think there might actually be more to it than I initially thought. Before I get too tinfoil hat with it, let's just start with the basics, with what we can see in-game. Gangplank Galleon's a ship that's run aground. Inside the mouth of Crocodile Cauldron, we find another, a ship that, from what we can tell, looks suspiciously similar. And again, the third shipwreck in as many worlds looks like Gangplank Galleon's sister ship and has been confirmed to have belonged to Krool. 3 ships, 3 voyages, or campaigns or something, all coming to the same end, crashing into their home, leaving them stranded back where they started. And it's a pattern that's gone on for longer than it seems, with yet a 4th shipwreck to be found uncomfortably high above water level, the mast of which serves as the haunt of Crow's ghost. The ship itself may have belonged to the cut character Mr. X, and could have been crewed by his replacement, the Cackles, maybe even the Cloaks. Maybe the ghost ropes were part of the ship too. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because Gloomy Gulch serves as a different kind of symbol, one of the inevitable end of the Kremlings, should they continue on their current trajectory. I've theorized before, and let's be clear here, these are my theories and little more than theories, that the middle 3 worlds of DKC 2 serve as the second act of the game, and can be split into a sort of 3-act story within a story. Krem Key shows us, quite literally, the ghost of the Kremlings past, a once bustling port now rotting in the stagnant swamp, around the former flagship of the Kremling Armada, split clean in 2. Crazy Kremland is little more than a theme park on the surface, but it shows us a lot about the Kremlings. It's the closest thing they have to a home, to infrastructure, to happiness. Their priorities are fucked and they live in squalor, choosing to distract themselves instead of improving their situation. Something we've covered in detail in the first Overthinking DKC series, but never more apparent than here, is how the Kremlings are wired to prioritize short-term gain, instant gratification, over what's good, right, or otherwise best for them, and it's gonna lead to their downfall. Gloomy Gulch is the closest thing we get to seeing what that might look like. The forest, what's left of it, is dying, and the place is little more than a graveyard. Given enough time, the whole island could look like this. And as we see in Krool's Keep, the final world, but not really, the Kremlings have a tendency to cut off their nose to spite their face. So if they couldn't defeat their enemies, they've shown they have no problem destroying their own homes to win. Could be ruthlessness, could just be yet another example of their short-sightedness and predisposition to self-destruction. So we've seen evidence of the cycle the Kremlings are stuck in, and a big picture look at their trajectory, but I think that the rabbit hole goes even deeper than that. First, take a look at these guys. Clomp, Cannon, Cruncher, Clampon, Clank, and Captain Krool. What do these enemies all have in common? A lot of things actually, but I'm trying to make a point, so there's one thing in particular I want to talk about. They all appeared in the first game. Critter lopped off a leg and called himself Clump. Clump picked up a cannon and called himself, Cannon. Crusher went from Doomsday Prepper Chic to Venice Beach testicle shriveling amounts of steroids core and called himself Cruncher for some reason. And yeah, it has been more or less confirmed that they are one and the same, despite visual differences. Krool swapped out King for Captain and made the rest of his crew do the same. Clampon and Clank didn't appear in DKC, but they fill the roles of Claptrap and Crash to a T, with Clampon even being Claptrap's older brother. This is the first instance of the main enemy archetypes returning in a new setting and form. And yes, I don't think there's much to go off when you look at those comparisons in isolation. But if you look at the bigger picture, those comparisons carry a lot more weight. Because throughout the series, we find evidence of those same archetypes having existed hundreds, maybe even thousands of years into the past. If we look at DKC, we can find evidence in the temple ruins, with the busts almost being identical to Critter. And as we'll see in the next episode, there's even more evidence of the archetypes existing during the ancient Kremling civilization, and in the future too. Cobble, Crumple, Crimp, and Baron K. Rulenstein are all returning archetypes in the next game. And in DK64, we get the return of classic enemies like Critter, Clump, Crash, and Claptrap, as well as K. Rool himself, with upgraded visuals. And Kasplat is a new addition that serves as the 4th incarnation of the tank archetype. There's more, but I think I've made my point, and we need something to talk about in the next episode. Crocodile Isle is my least favourite overworld in the trilogy, and while I have my issues with it, it's not a bad overworld. The game itself is overflowing with amazing, diverse biomes, and it can't have been an easy job trying to Frankenstein them all together in a way that looks natural. And making this place seem as inhospitable as it is, it's not hard to understand why the Kremlings might want to leave. We're done. Final fight next, then one more episode, then we close the book on Donkey Kong Country 2. I've had fun. It's my favourite game of all time, and I've loved breaking it apart and seeing how it works. I hope you've had fun too.